Hello, friends. Today, I thought we might talk about the author Andy Weir and his 3 novels. Now, I know not everyone is into science fiction, and I get that. So these novels may not be your preferred genre, but I hope that maybe even if you aren't into sci-fi or Andy Weir, you still might get something from the video. I'll be tapping and showing the cover art as well as reading the summaries, and I will also give my order of the 3 as I found them when I read them. So I hope that, like I said, even if you aren't into science fiction or Andy Weir, you might still get some enjoyment from this video. So the 3 books are in the order in which they were released. First was The Martian, and then Artemis, and most recently Project Hail Mary. So I'm going to show these and read the summaries in a sort of countdown order from my least to most favorite. But I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed all 3 books, and I don't think that any of them are bad at all. There's not a huge gap between the 3, with maybe the exception of my number 3 pick, which, to be fair, I think is probably most Andy Weir fans' number 3 pick, but that is Artemis. So the copyright for Artemis is 2017, and here is the summary. Jasmine Bashara never signed up to be a hero. She just wanted to get rich. Not crazy, eccentric billionaire rich, like many of the visitors to her hometown of Artemis, humanity's first and only lunar colony. Just rich enough to move out of her coffin-sized apartment and eat something better than flavored algae. Rich enough to pay off a debt she's owed for a long time. So when a chance at a huge score finally comes her way, Jazz can't say no. Sure, it requires her to graduate from small-time smuggler to full-on criminal mastermind, and it calls for a particular combination of cunning, technical skills, and large explosions, not to mention sheer brazen swagger. But Jazz has never run into a challenge her intellect can't handle, and she figures she's got the swagger part down. The trouble is, engineering the perfect crime is just the start of Jazz's problems. Because her little heist is about to land her in the middle of a conspiracy for control of Artemis itself. Trapped between competing forces, pursued by a killer and the law alike, even Jazz has to admit she's in way over her head. She'll have to hatch a truly spectacular scheme to have a chance at staying alive and saving her city. Jazz is no hero, but she is a very good criminal. That'll have to do. Propelled by its heroine's wisecracking voice, set in a city that's at once stunningly imagined and intimately familiar, and brimming over with clever problem-solving and heisty fun, Artemis is another irresistible brew of science, suspense, and humor from #1 best-selling author Andy Weir. So, I think if you were to go on Goodreads, and I haven't done this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right, this would be the least highly rated of Andy Weir's 3 novels. And that seems to be the consensus in the sort of sci-fi book community from other reviews I've watched and just the general feelings that I've picked up from on various YouTube channels and forums. But like I said at the beginning, I don't think it's really a bad book at all. It's just it came after The Martian, which I think is a modern classic and a lot of people would put in their top sci-fi books of all time. So that's a very hard act to follow. I think the strong suit of Artemis is in the main character, Jazz. As with all 3 Andy Weir novels, he's very, very good at creating a main character or 2. And the voice that he gives them and their dialogue is always witty and funny and relatable in a lot of ways, even though the characters themselves may be physicists or rocket scientists or engineers or just other people with very big brains. But Jazz is a fun character, and I think probably the best part of the book. But anyway, that's Artemis by Andy Weir in my #3 spot. Alright, I guess my next pick will give away both of the picks to come, but to keep it in order, I will say my #2 book from Andy Weir is The Martian. So the copyright for The Martian is, well, I should say the original self-published was 2011, which was an ebook, and this particular version by Random House is 2014. And here's the summary. 6 days ago, astronaut Mark Watney became one of the first people to walk on Mars. Now, he's sure he'll be the last person to die there. After a dust storm nearly kills him and forces his crew to evacuate the planet while thinking him dead, Mark finds himself stranded on Mars' surface, completely alone, with no way to signal Earth that he's alive. And even if he could get word out, his supplies would be gone years before a rescue could arrive. Chances are, though, Mark won't have time to starve to death. The damaged machinery, unforgiving environment, or plain old human error are much more likely to kill him first. But Mark's not ready to quit. Armed with nothing but his ingenuity and his engineering skills, and a gallows sense of humor that proves to be his greatest source of strength, he embarks on a dogged quest to stay alive, using his botany expertise to grow food and even hatching a mad plan to contact NASA back on Earth. As he overcomes one seemingly insurmountable obstacle after the next, Mark begins to let himself believe he might make it off the planet alive. But Mars has plenty of surprises in store for him yet. Grounded in real, present-day science from the first page to the last, yet propelled by a brilliantly ingenious plot that surprises the reader again and again, The Martian is a truly remarkable thriller, an impossible-to-put-down suspense novel that manages to read like a real-life survival tale. As I mentioned with Artemis, I think The Martian is a modern classic and probably destined to be considered one of the greatest sci-fi novels ever. But more than that, I think it is a gateway into the genre. I know a lot of people that have read this book who really aren't into science fiction at all, or they watched the film with Matt Damon and wanted to go a bit deeper with the character and the story. And from there they went on to sort of get more into the genre and have found other classics through reading this one first, which I think is great. I think this is a wonderful book for people who love just good books in general. If you love page turners and, as the summary says, really thrilling stories that you kind of have to see, oh, what happens next? How's he going to get out of this situation? I don't see how it could possibly get any worse for him, but it always does, and he somehow manages. It's a really great character, great story. It's uplifting, heart-wrenching in parts, and ultimately really a tale of the human will to survive. And I think that's why so many people connect with it. But it's in my number 2 spot from Andy Weir, The Martian. So that means that with absolutely no suspense or surprise, the remaining book, which is also the newest, is my current number 1 from Andy Weir, and that is Project Hail Mary. So the copyright for this one is 2021, and here's the summary. Ryland Grace is the sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission, and if he fails, humanity and Earth itself will perish. Except that right now, he doesn't know that. He can't even remember his own name, let alone the nature of his assignment or how to complete it. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time. And he's just been awakened to find himself millions of miles from home with nothing but 2 corpses for company. His crewmates dead, his memories fuzzily returning, Ryland realizes that an impossible task now confronts him. Hurtling through space on this tiny ship, it's up to him to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery and conquer an extinction-level threat to our species. And with the clock ticking down and the nearest human being light years away, he's got to do it all alone. Or does he? An irresistible interstellar adventure as only Andy Weir could imagine it. Project Hail Mary is a tale of discovery, speculation, and survival to rival the Martian, while taking us to places it never dreamed of going. I think this newest novel is a return to form to the Martian. It's I won't say formulaic because I don't think it is, but it definitely has a similar vibe in that you have an astronaut who is in deep trouble, for lack of any other term. And he has to sort of use his own knowledge and ingenuity to find ways out of a seemingly endless string of problems that, if any one of which defeated the character, they would be dead. What this novel has, though, that The Martian does not, and I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, but the second character introduced and the interplay between the main character and his sidekick is really one of the best sort of buddy comedies that I've ever read. So the book is very serious in its subject matter, and it definitely has a lot of heart-wrenching moments and is a thriller in a lot of ways, the same way that The Martian is. But that extra little dose of camaraderie and the comedy that comes with it, to me, really takes this one to the top of the Andy Weir pile. And so for now, that's why it's my favorite. That's Project Hail Mary. So those are the 3 Andy Weir novels and my ordered preference of my least to most favorite. I would love to hear if you are a fan of those books or what books you might be a fan of. If you are a fan of science fiction or your favorite genre, I'm always looking for new books to read, and I'm pretty open-minded. I like to think about what genres I dabble in. I like both fiction and nonfiction. So feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts and if you agree or disagree with my order. But either way, I hope this video finds you well and maybe a little less anxious. Until next time, goodbye.